Every time you say yes when you mean no, you are quietly handing over a piece of yourself that you may never get back. This video is about one of the most underestimated survival skills of modern life: the ability to decline, refuse, and walk away without drowning in guilt of burning yourself in explanations. By the time this ends, you will understand exactly why saying no feels so impossible. And more importantly, you will have the one thing that changes everything. Most people believe the problem is rudeness. They think that saying no makes them difficult, selfish, or cold. But that is not the real wound here. The real wound is something much older, much deeper. It is the fear of being abandoned by the people who need something from you. That fear was installed long before you were old enough to question it, and it has been ruining your decisions ever since. Think about the last time someone asked you for something you didn't want to give. Maybe it was your time, maybe it was your energy, maybe it was your presence at an event that exhausted you just thinking about it. What did you do? You said yes, and the moment those words left your mouth, something inside you collapsed just a little. That collapse has a name. It is resentment. And resentment doesn't announce itself loudly. It builds slowly, quietly, like pressure behind a wall. You start feeling tired around certain people. You start dreading your own schedule. You look at your calendar and instead of feeling organized, you feel trapped. That is not a productivity problem. That is what happens when your entire life has been designed around everyone else's comfort except yours. Here's what nobody tells you about people who over-explain their refusals. The more you justify, the more you invite negotiation. When you say, I can't come because I have this thing and I also am tired and my dog needs attention and I might be getting sick, you're not being honest. You are being strategic in the worst possible way. You're handing the other person a list of objections to dismantle, and they will dismantle them one by one until you are saying yes again and wondering how it happened. The truth is, a real no needs no architecture. It is not a building you need to construct and defend. It is a door. You either open it or you keep it closed. But this is where it gets uncomfortable because the guilt doesn't come from them. It comes from you. You have been trained by family, by culture, by years of social conditioning to interpret your own limits as moral failures. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being needed meant being loved, and that disappointing someone meant losing them. So you kept saying yes, and the yeses accumulated until you forgot what your actual love was supposed to feel like. This is the emotional core of the problem, and it is important that you sit with it for a moment rather than rushing past it. The inability to say no is not a communication issue. It is an identity issue. It is the result of a self that was never fully allowed to have preferences, to occupy space, to matter as much as the people asking things of it. And yet, something shifts when you begin to understand that your availability is not a measure of your worth, that the most generous people in the world are not the ones who never refuse. They are the ones who give from a full place rather than an empty one. You cannot pour from a vessel that has been drained by 100 small surrenders. Now, here's where most advice on this topic goes wrong. They give you scripts. They say, just tell them you're busy. Use the sandwich method. Soften it with a compliment. All of that is noise because the problem was never vocabulary. The problem was belief. And until the belief changes, no script will hold. What actually works is simpler and harder at the same time. It starts with a single radical idea. You are allowed to not want things, not because you are sick, not because you are busy, not because some higher obligation intervenes, but simply because you do not want to. That is enough. That has always been enough. When you say no from that place, calm, clear, without performance, something remarkable happens. People respect it. Not always immediately. Some will push. Some will guilt trip. Some will call you selfish. And for a moment, you will wonder if they are right. They are not. What they are experiencing is the shock of encountering a boundary from someone who never had one. That shock is theirs to manage, not yours. The people who truly belong in your life will not require you to dissolve yourself to stay in it. That is the sentence you need to carry with you. Read it again if you have to. Now, about the guilt itself, It will not disappear overnight, but it will change texture. Instead of being a wall that stops you, it becomes a signal that you are doing something new, something your nervous system is not yet used to. That discomfort is not evidence that you did something wrong. It is evidence that you are finally doing something right. There is a version of your life where your yes actually means something because it was freely chosen, where your time belongs to your first, where the relationships you maintain are the ones you genuinely want, not the ones you are afraid to lose. That version doesn't require you to become someone harder or colder. It requires you to become someone more honest. And that brings us back to where we started. You came here because saying no feels impossible, because the cost of the refusing always seemed higher than the cost of accepting. But now you know the real cost, the resentment, the exhaustion, the slow erosion of a self that deserved to exist fully. The one thing that changes everything, it is not a technique, it is the moment you decide that your life is yours to protect. Everything else follows from there.